With a robbery on the Massachusetts Institute of Technology campus, during which an officer was shot dead. This was followed by a carjacking in Cambridge and a high-speed chase by police to Watertown, about 10 kilometers west of Boston.
It's here in the leafy residential area of Watertown that the car chase came to an end at about 10 o'clock last night. Police say during the subsequent standoff, the two suspects threw several explosives at police cars. During an exchange of gunfire, 26-year-old Tamerlan Tsarnaev was wounded and taken into custody. He later died of gunshot wounds in hospital. His brother, 19-year-old Sukar, managed to flee, prompting a massive manhunt. Police described him as an armed and dangerous terrorist. A surveillance video taken on the day of the Boston Marathon bombings shows the two brothers in the crowd minutes before the bombs exploded near the finish line. Twin blasts, believed to have been caused by bombs in pressure cookers placed inside backpacks, killed 3 people and wounded 176. The worst attack on US soil since the September 11 attacks. By this morning, authorities had locked down Watertown.
There is a massive manhunt underway, a lot of law enforcement involved in that. To assist that, we have suspended all service on the MBTA, our public transit service, and that will continue until we think it's safe to open all or some of that. We're asking people to shelter in place, in other words, to stay indoors with their doors locked and not to open the door for anyone other than a properly identified law enforcement officer, and that applies here in Watertown, where we are right now, also Cambridge, Waltham, Newton, Belmont, and at this point, all of Boston.
Wave after wave of heavily armed police descended on the town. House-to-house searches were conducted inside a 20-block area. MIT cancelled classes for the day.
For more on the story, we now cross live to our reporter in the United States, Sherwin Bryce Pease. A very good evening to you, Sherwin. Thank you for joining us. Is the manhunt still on? What's the latest?
Very, very much, Rebecca. What we do know, authorities are closing in on the second younger suspect as we speak. They've surrounded an area of interest in Watertown, Massachusetts. This is the area where the younger suspect, 19-year-old Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, was last seen. His older brother, as you mentioned, killed earlier in an exchange with police after they attempted to rob a convenience store, killing a campus police officer who was in the vicinity, then hijacking a vehicle were pursued by authorities when this firefight broke out late last night. The younger brother was able to flee, as we understand it, in a vehicle. Police are now trying to flush out this man and possibly other associates. Thousands of law enforcement officials on the ground. In many ways, Babakshi, this is now a David versus Goliath scenario, and really two options facing this 19-year-old. Hand yourself over or get into a firefight with police, which is a battle that, just based on the sheer numbers of law enforcement on the scene, is a battle he would lose.
Authorities seem to be taking little chance, the area under lockdown. What's the situation like in Boston right now?
Well, as you mentioned, complete lockdown in Boston, what Governor Deval Patrick earlier called shelter in place. People told to stay indoors, lock their doors, and not to respond unless to a clearly identifiable police officer. We also know that no mass transit is operating in Boston at this time. There are no cabs on the streets. Schools have been closed. People have been asked not to go to work. The university, as mentioned in that report, also closed. Logan International Airport is operating, but with very, very high levels of security. It has also been established the brothers come from Chechnya, as you also mentioned in that piece, which remains part of federal Russia, a long-disputed, mostly Muslim region. They have lived in the USA for around 7-8 years, according to people who knew them. They were naturalized U.S. citizens, and nothing to indicate, certainly from their public persona, that they were capable of anything like this.
Let's just pick up on that, Sherwin. From what I understand, a relative has spoken to the media. What did he have to say about the suspects?
Quite right, actually. Their uncle, the brother of the two suspects' father, spoke outside his home in Montgomery County, Maryland. That's a different state, so quite a way away from where we are. This is a different state where the media had literally camped outside the family home. A clearly emotional and angry Ruslan Karni sent his condolences first and foremost to the victims of Monday's attack. saying he never thought the children of his brother would be involved in something like this. He said, his side of the family had not been in touch with the suspect since 2005. So when asked about a motive, he called them losers. He said, we were unable to successfully resettle themselves in the United States after being granted asylum. He pointedly, and this is important, said Islam had nothing to do with this case, adding Chechens were peaceful people. He said this incident brought shame on the entire ethnic Chechen community and that these two must have been, quote, radicalized by somebody.
Thank you very much. That was our reporter, Sherwin Bryce Peace, coming to us live from the U.S., talking there about the manhunt for the remaining suspect from Monday's Boston Marathon bombings. One suspect has been killed in a shootout with police.